Okay, I don't know if this is going to do any good, but I'll give it a shot. A real popular topic of discussion in what passes for the modern day gaming community is the problem a lot of you have with how difficulty works and is applied in gaming, and how that is a major contributor to why modern day gaming sucks. And you're right. The way difficulty works and is applied in gaming is a major contributor to why modern day gaming sucks. The problem is, how do I put this nicely? The misunderstanding you guys have with how and why difficulty works and is applied in gaming is a major contributor to why modern day gaming sucks. To be quite honest, you're clueless. You are absolutely clueless on the how and why difficulty works and is applied in gaming makes it a major contributor to why modern day gaming sucks. And like I said, I doubt it's going to do any good, but what I want to try and do in this video is correct the misunderstanding you guys have in regards to why and how difficulty works and applies in gaming is a major contributor to why modern day gaming sucks. Now, to do that, I have to give a quick and dirty evolution of how difficulty works in gaming. Now, back in the prehistoric days of gaming, the origins of gaming, you might say, the way difficulty worked and applied in gaming is a little different than how it works and applies in gaming today. See, back in the stone ages of gaming, the origins of gaming, the way difficulty worked and was applied was a difficulty spike. That meant the more you played the game, the further you progressed into the game, the more difficult the game got. Meaning you had to get better at the game just to be able to keep playing the game. And you had to be really good at the game to be able to finish the game. Now, the way that difficulty spike worked was different depending on the type of game you were playing. But the overall point being that the difficulty spike was applied that you had to overcome the challenge the game provided to be able to beat the game. And if you didn't get better at playing the game, you didn't get to play the game anymore. That, boys and girls, is the core foundation of what gaming is. That's the whole point of gaming. To get better at the game, to be able to keep playing the game, and be good enough at the game to be able to finish or beat the game. This was also how you were able to determine how good you were at the game. Meaning, the further you progressed in the game, the better at the game you were. If you had a game and somebody only got to stage 10, while somebody else was able to get to stage 20, you knew that the person who was able to get to stage 20 was better at the game than the person that was only able to get to stage 10, because you had to be better at the game to get past stage 10 to be able to get to stage 20. And which was why anybody who was able to finish the game was better at the game than everybody else who wasn't able to finish the game. Hence, why being able to beat the game and finish the game was considered an accomplishment. Now, here's the thing. I understand that there are a wide range of the types of people who play video games, but for simplicity's sake, I'm dividing them into 4 general categories: the casuals, the average player, the average gamer, and the hardcore gamer. Now, this is important because the way the difficulty spike way of applying difficulty in gaming caused a little bit of a problem for gaming companies, because not everybody who wanted to play video games was good enough at playing video games to be able to play video games, which meant you had some people who were playing video games who were going, hey, gaming companies, we want to play these video games. The problem is we're not very good at them. We can only make it to about a third of the game before we're no longer able to progress any further in the game. Well, we're not going to buy your video games if we're only going to be able to make it about a third of the way. You also had other people going, hey, video game companies, we want to play these video games. We want to buy your video games. The problem is we can only make it about halfway through the game. Well, we're not going to buy your video games if we're only going to be able to play half of the game. Now, gaming companies wanting to expand their audience, wanting to expand their customer base, needed to figure out how to appeal to all of these people who wanted to play their video games but weren't really good at them. And so they came up with this really great idea. Make video games geared to the various category of people who played video games. Make hardcore games for people who wanted a high difficulty spike for hardcore gamers. Create a game with a medium difficulty spike geared to the average player or the average gamer. Make video games with a low difficulty spike geared to the average player demographic. Now, this worked for those, the idea of a difficulty spike worked for those three categories of people who played video games. But it didn't work for people who were classified as casuals, because casuals didn't want to play video games that required the necessity to have to get better at the game to be able to keep playing the game. Casuals didn't want to have to be good at playing video games to be able to play video games. Casuals sucked at playing video games, but they still wanted to play video games. So gaming companies created casual games where you did not have a difficulty spike, where you did not have to get better at the game to be able to keep playing the game, where you could suck at video games and still play a video game, and geared those games to casuals. Now, this is another important element of the various categories. You were classified of what type of category you were in based on the type of games you played. Meaning, if all you played were games with a high difficulty spike, then that classified you as a hardcore gamer. If you played games that had a low difficulty spike, that classified you as an average player. If you played video games that had no difficulty spike, if you played video games that didn't require you to have to get better at the game to be able to keep playing the game, that classified you as a casual. You didn't get to decide what category you were in. It was based on what type of games you played. So if somebody asked you what type of games you played, and you mentioned a stream of games that were, geared to the average player, then we would go, oh, so you're the average player. Great. Somebody who listed a series of games that were geared to the average gamer, we would go, oh, okay, you're a gamer because you play games geared to gamers. Now, this worked for a while, except two factors came into effect that changed things. One of them being gaming grew and gaming evolved. And gaming evolved in a number of amazing, great, unexpected ways that nobody anticipated. Because not only were new games being made every year, new genres were being invented every year. New ways of playing video games were being invented every year. And this caused a lot of crossover, because the other factor is when a gaming company wanted to make the typical video game, they had to decide which category or which demographic they wanted to make the game geared to. Let's say they wanted to make a CRPG. Do they make the CRPG geared to the average player? Do they make the CRPG geared to the average gamer? Or do they make the CRPG geared to the hardcore gamer? And that was the game that was designed for. They didn't make 3 different versions of the same game to appeal to the various different categories. At the same time, because all of these new ways of making video games were coming out, all of these new genres, all of these new ideas, all of these new innovations, when a gaming company made a game, they would go, okay, we're going to take this idea and we're going to gear it to, the average player. But the thing is, the average gamer would be going, hey, we like that game idea too. Can you guys make a version of that game for us? And what would happen is another gaming company would copy that idea and make that same game idea, but gear it to the average gamer. And another company would take that same idea and make a game geared to the hardcore gamer. And this worked for a while. The thing was, gaming companies wanting to expand their audience and wanting to expand their customer base came up with this really great idea. Instead of making games geared to specific demographics, why not just make a game that would appeal to all of the various demographics that wanted a difficulty spike? So what they did was they invented difficulty modes. Create the standard game geared to the average gamer. Because back in the day, right, the average gamer was the main demographic. Yes, there was the average player and there were hardcore gamers, but the average gamer back in the day was the key demographic. So most games were geared to the average gamer. But with the difficulty modes, if you added a hard mode, then that would appeal to the hardcore gamers. And if you incorporated an easy mode, that would appeal to the average player. So now, with the difficulty modes, a gaming company could make one standard game and have it appeal to all 3 different categories of demographics. Thing was, gaming kept growing. New people kept coming into gaming. And all of the new people that were coming into gaming were filling up the average player demographic until eventually the average player demographic was now the biggest demographic. So now gaming companies were no longer gearing their games to the average gamer. They were now gearing their games to target the average player. Well, the average player plays video games that has a low difficulty spike. So now the standard typical video game now had a low difficulty spike. Thing was, gaming kept growing and new people kept coming into gaming. The thing was, more and more people started filling up the casual demographic until eventually the casual demographic was now bigger than the average player demographic. And the gaming companies, wanting to expand their audience and expand their customer base, now wanted to target the casual demographic. Only there's a problem with the casual demographic. They kind of have 2 restrictions or 2 caveats in regards to them. One of them is casuals don't want to play video games with a difficulty spike. Casuals don't want to play video games that require them to have to get better at the game to be able to keep playing the game. Casuals suck at playing video games. So the gaming companies, to appeal to the casuals, got rid of the difficulty spike altogether. So now games no longer required anybody who was playing them to have to get better at the game to be able to keep playing the video game. Thing is, there was also another caveat in dealing with the casual demographic. And that is, casuals don't really play games that are geared to the average gamer. For example, the casual gamer plays games like, what is it called? Stardew Valley and Animal Crossing, right? Okay, here's the thing. People who normally play games like Stardew Valley or Animal Crossing don't exactly play games like Dark Souls or Bloodborne, do they? So to get the casual demographic to want to play, the standard typical video game, the gaming companies came up with this really great idea to appeal to the casual gamers to play the standard, typical video game. And that was incorporate a story. That's it. Just incorporate a story. Hey, casuals, come play this typical standard video game, but not to actually play the game. Play this standard typical video game to play out the story of this typical standard video game. And to make it easier for you, we'll even incorporate a story mode. And it worked. It worked. Now, this is the key pivotal element of why modern day gaming sucks. Because now modern day games are geared to the casual demographic as the base game. Meaning the base game, regardless of the difficulty modes, regardless of how you can adjust the difficulty, the standard typical video game no longer has a difficulty spike. The standard typical video game no longer requires you to have to get better at the game to be able to keep playing the game. The standard typical video game is geared to people who suck at playing video games. That's it. That is why modern day games suck. Because the foundation of every modern day game is geared to appeal to people who suck at playing video games. I mean, what's one of your big complaints? Why is there so much hand-holding in video games? Well, that's easy. Because you have people who suck at video games playing a standard typical video game that they don't know how to play. And even though they may be playing on story mode or easy mode, there's still gameplay elements that they have to get past. Well, people who suck at video games don't know how to get past those areas, so the game developers have to incorporate hand-holding to get the people who suck at playing video games to be able to play the game they wouldn't normally be able to play. Being able to finish the game is no longer an accomplishment. It is an expectation. It is a foregone conclusion because a modern day game is geared so that even people who suck at video games are still going to be able to finish the game. And here's the hilarious part. It's not just that modern day games don't incorporate a difficulty challenge. It's that none of you actually want modern day games to incorporate a difficulty challenge. All of you complaining about how difficulty sucks in modern day gaming. What's your big issue? Your big complaint is modern day games need to figure out how to do game balance properly. Well, you know what game balance means, you morons? Game balance means that no matter what your skill level, you want it so that the game will always be on par with your skill level. You don't want modern day games to have the difficulty not just be less than your skill level. You don't want modern day games to have the difficulty be higher than your skill level. You know why? Because if the game's difficulty is higher than your skill level, that would mean you would have to get better at the game to be able to keep playing the game. And the last thing you casuals want in a game is the necessity to have to get better at the game to be able to keep playing the game. This is why I had said that you're clueless when it comes to the discussion of the problem with how difficulty works and is applied in modern day gaming, because you're clueless to the core foundation of what gaming is. The core foundation of playing video games is needing to get better at the video game to be able to keep playing the game. The desire to want to get better at the video game to be able to keep playing the video game. The necessity to get good enough at the game to be able to beat the game. The desire to want to be good enough at the game to be able to beat the game. This is also why I had said at the beginning of the video, I'll make this video, but I doubt it's going to do any good, because to fix how difficulty works, to fix the problem with how difficulty works and is applied in modern day gaming, you have to change how difficulty works in modern day gaming. And you have to change it to the core foundation of what playing a video game is all about. You have to incorporate a difficulty spike. You have to incorporate a difficulty challenge. You have to incorporate the necessity to have to get better at the video game to be able to keep playing the video game. But it's pointless, because the majority of you in the modern day gaming community will not play a video game that does that, because the modern day gaming community will not play or have absolutely no interest in wanting to play a video game that requires the necessity to have to get better at the video game to be able to keep playing the video game, because the majority of the modern day gaming community have no desire to want to have to get better at playing a game so that they can keep playing the game. Hence why I had said, I'll make this video and I'll explain what the problem is, and I'll even give you the solution, but it's not going to do any good because none of you want the solution. And so you want to keep the problem that is how difficulty works and is applied in modern day gaming, because that's how you want to play video games. Anyway, I said my piece. That's it for me. I'm good. I'm done. I'm out of here. See ya.